Welcome back. In the previous lesson, we spoke about what the GRE is. We spoke about how the multi-stage system works and as a consequence, how scoring on the GRE works. We also spoke about a few strategies that can help you do well on the GRE to ensure a higher score considering the time constraint that you have. In this particular lesson, we are going to talk about the verbal section. We're going to talk about the question types you are going to see on the verbal section, and also the kind of concepts and strategies that are required to do well on the questions within the verbal section. Let's look at the split of question types to begin with. When we look at the verbal section, you will see that there are two predominant types of questions that make them up. The first type is the verbal reasoning or the verbal vocabulary-based questions. These constitute 50% of all verbal reasoning questions. These include text completion and sentence equivalence. The other half is composed of critical reading-based questions. Now, these involve your ability to read passages or short texts and come to inferences based on the text itself. There are many sort of strategies and skills required to do well in this, but essentially you could see that most of the questions are going to be reading comprehension based and a few questions will be critical reasoning based, where the skills required to do well in that particular question type is slightly different from those required in reading comprehension. Let's look at the first question type, the text completion question. Now these have three forms of questions. You have the single blank, the double blank, and triple blank. All of these consist of a text, and this text can be anywhere from one sentence to about 5 sentences big. For a single blank, you will have one blank and 5 corresponding answer options. Your job is to understand what the text is saying, and based on the information provided in the text, come to an understanding of what the blank should be filled with. And of course, choose the best representation from the 5 answer options you have. This, of course, tests your ability to make inferences, to be able to read passages and understand the crux of it, and of course, to an extent, your ability to understand and remember high-level vocabulary. The next form of the text completion is the multiple blank text completion. For a 2 blank text completion like this, you will have 3 answer options on each side, meaning you will have 3 answer options for each blank. Now, you might think that the word imprudent and independent come together as a pair, meaning if I select this as the right answer, this has to be the right answer for blank 2. Unfortunately, this is not the case. They are independent of each other, meaning that there are 3 ways to answer the first blank and there are 3 ways to answer the second blank. Or there are 3 into 3 ways to answer the entire double blank question, or 9 ways to answer it. This could be the right answer and this could be the right answer as well. It is not dependent on the positioning, right? This gets a little bit more tricky when we go to a triple blank question. These tend to be longer, meaning the text tends to be as long as 5 sentences long and also therefore denser, packed with a lot of information. You will have 3 answer options for each blank. So this could be the right answer, this could be the right answer, this could be the right answer for each blank respectively. The rub here is that let's say you pick this as the right answer and that is the right answer. You pick that as the right answer and that happens to be the right answer. And you pick this, but this is incorrect, right? My selections are not a representation of what the answers for this question is. Well, if you get one of the answers right, one of the answers wrong in a multiple blank text completion question, you get the entire question wrong. You get 0 points, no brownie points for your effort. And that's the rub when it comes to these kind of questions. It's easier to digest in a single blank question where you have only one set of answers for one blank. But for a double blank and a triple blank, even if you understood the sentence correctly, but made a mistake in just one of the blanks, you get 0 points. So being able to solve these questions strategically and to be able to understand vocabulary in context, not just through rote memorization, and also to be able to make the right inferences based on the data provided and not based on what you assume might be right, all of these things are very important. So it's less a difficult test and more a tricky test because of the way it's designed and the kind of skills it tests. Let's move on to the next question type in the vocabulary-based questions. A quick review of what we discussed. For text completion questions, you can have 1 to 5 sentences that make up the text, 3 answer options per blank for multiple blank questions, 5 answer options for a single blank text completion question. The answers for each blank separates individually or independently, meaning selecting one answer option from one blank does not affect what answer option you can select for another blank. Single correct answer consisting of one choice for each blank, meaning if you make one mistake, even one mistake in a triple blank question, you don't get any points. There is no credit for partially correct answers. And that is sort of the crux of what the text completion question is. Moving on to sentence equivalence questions. Now these will always be one sentence long. One sentence, always. You will be able to identify this as a sentence equivalence question by the fact that you will have check boxes next to the answer options. And you will always have 6 answer options. Always 6 options. And along with that, considering the fact that it has check boxes and it has 6 answer options, there is another thing that you have to keep in mind. There are always 2 correct answers. Always 2 correct answers. What happens if you pick one of the answers right and one of the answers wrong? Well, you guessed it right, you get a 0. There are no partial points. Right? And that again makes or brings in the difficulty for this question type. To review, sentence equivalence questions consist of a single sentence, one blank, 6 answer options. You must select 2 answer options. No more, no less. If you select one of the right answers and one of the wrong answers, you get 0 points. You must select both of the right answers, none of the wrong answers. The 2 options that you select need to create a similar sentence in context when applied to the blank. Meaning the 2 answer options need not be synonyms. So trying to learn synonyms from a dictionary may not be the right approach for these questions. Instead, you need to understand contextual meaning and you need to understand how specific words interact with context to create a meaning. So words that may not be dictionary synonyms may actually become synonyms in context of that blank. And that is what sentence equivalence tests. And of course, we will dive more into how to identify this and how to solve this when we get to the sentence equivalence module of our verbal course. The next question is the reading comprehension question. Now, like I said, 50% of the verbal section is going to be reading comprehension, almost all of which is going to be reading comprehension. Only a small component will be critical reasoning. Now, these reading comprehension passages will have one passage. These passages can be anywhere from 1 paragraph to multiple paragraphs, up to 5 paragraphs big. They can be quite long sometimes, or quite short sometimes. They can have anywhere from 1 to 4 questions attached to them. Usually 2 to 3 questions attached to each passage. These passages can be from books, magazines, biographies, literature, scholarly journals, and textbooks. And of course, the topics that these passages cover can be varied. They can be from social sciences to biology to politics and even business. These tend to mimic the kind of reading material that you will see in your grad school, or when you're doing your MS, when you're doing your research, or you're, well, preparing for a homework or whatever it is. You're going to have advanced vocabulary, complex sentences, and intricate ideas. That is what will classify what a reading comprehension passage looks like. You have three kinds of question types attached to reading comprehension as well. This is irrespective of the skills that are tested. You have a multiple choice question, meaning you have 5 answer options and 1 right answer. You will have a multiple response question where you will have 3 answer options with check boxes next to them. But unlike a sentence equivalence, here you can have 1, 2, or 3 right answers. In such cases, you have to pick all the right answers and none of the wrong answers. For instance, if a multiple response question has 1 right answer and you pick 2, well, you don't get a point, even if you have selected the correct or one of the correct answers. Or if it has 3 right answers, all the answer options are correct, and you only pick 2, you get 0. Again, it doesn't necessarily make it a difficult question type, but it does make it tricky. So we need to be very, very accurate and focused about the method we follow. And there are question types which don't have answer options. Instead, you will be asked to click on one of the sentences in the passage itself. So sentences within the passage become clickable. Not very different from any other question type, just that the format is different. And you have critical reasoning questions as well, where you may have a short passage with just 1 question attached to it. Again, the most important thing here is not really the question form, but the strategies required to do well on these questions.